Hey, it's B. It's me. It's Kodiak Creep. Welcome back to the channel. And if this is your first time here, stay and mean it. It's not an option any longer. Anyway, we're going to get into our little Kodiak capsule, a little Kodiak capsule, a little creep machine, a little time machine, creep machine, if you will. And we're going to go way back to the prehistoric year of 2024, late 2024, early 25. To a little story that had a title, and this is not verbatim, something along the lines of every night somebody walks down my street and screams for help, and we're not allowed to look. It's still on the channel if you want to go check it out. It didn't get nearly as many views as it should have, but it's an amazing story. I highly suggest you go check it out. And the reason we're going back to this is because the author of that one, u/Orangeplr, or Russ, over on Reddit, is one of my all-time favorite Reddit authors of the last few years. And we've got to work with them. Obviously, we narrated one of their stories, and they have a great personality, and I fucking love that story. Well, here about 2 weeks ago, a story was published on r/nosleep titled "This Town Has Rules About the Thing That Mimics." And I'm about halfway through it. As I do, I reached out. They're all game. They want to work together on this again. So that's what we're going to fucking do tonight. This town has rules about the thing that mimics. Be sure to go check out Orangeplr over on r/nosleep over on Reddit. Just go to their profile, honestly. Just Orangeplr. I'll put it on the screen again. It's probably still on the screen, to be honest with you. And just read it. They have so many stories, and they're so fucking good at what they do. So Orangeplr, if you see this, thanks. I appreciate you. And yeah, man, I'm not gonna keep you too long. Let's jump back into the present and get out of that Kodiak capsule, and let's get fucking creepy. The drive was long and exhausting. It was always fascinating to me how a 6-hour drive, just sitting on my ass, could tire me out much more than an 8-hour shift standing up did. Something about holding yourself in one position, staring straight ahead, I guess. There was something about being stuck that folded over you like a weighted blanket, heavier and heavier as the minutes passed. I took a lot of bathroom breaks and just stood next to my car, staring out into the fields and then, later on, into the forest. Each rest stop was thicker with trees and thinner with people. By the time I pulled into the driveway, it was dark outside and I was in an awful mood. I hated arriving places in the dark. And this was the worst possible place to do so. I was meant to live here, and my first time seeing the area was supposed to be a chance to feel it out, get comfortable. Driving through the winding neighborhoods in the blackness just left me feeling more disoriented than the arduous process of moving already was. Man, that's always a fucking pain in the ass. The last 2 times I relocated cities, I did it in the middle of the night. Like one night. The first time, this is way off topic. We're gonna detour here, but I got to tell you this because I think about this every time I read this first part of this story. Uh, so this one time I was relocating cities, and it was an abrupt decision. I'm one of those people, like, I'm really steadfast in old school instability for a long time, and then one day I'll wake up and be like, I want to alter my entire fucking life. The white rabbit, if you will. I think that's how they're using it. I'm probably using that wrong. Anyway, in the middle of the night, me and one of my best friends, we rented a U-Haul like the day of signing the lease, and then drove it back to my original city. And we loaded my entire house up into this one fucking U-Haul in the middle of the night. It was the middle of winter. It was like 2 or 3 in the morning. I want to say it was like 20 degrees outside, maybe even colder. But in the middle of the night, we loaded all my belongings up and then drove to this place. But what was so funny about it is we got like 4 miles into the drive back, and the engine starts knocking real fucking bad. Come to find out, I drove over 300 miles with just like a U-Haul that had like a fucking blown head gasket. It was great. It was super terrifying in hindsight, but yeah, super eerie. I had no fucking clue where anything was when I woke up the next morning in the new place. Like I had to ask directions to a gas station. And I know what you're thinking. Why? Why? You have Google Maps. Well, I don't blake. I don't think. I'm kind of like in the moment stupid. Anyway, I regretted leaving so late. I regretted making so many stops. As my car door slammed shut and I slung my overnight bag over my shoulder, the porch light came on. A yellow glow that it emanated peacefully from just under the wooden awning. My neighbor cracked the front door open and a little dog squeezed its way out, bounding towards me. Cosmo! An older woman's voice called from the porch. Cosmo, come back here! The border collie leapt into the air, his paw scraping the front of my sweatshirt with each jump. I laughed, my bad mood beginning to melt away. Hi, Cosmo, I mumbled, crouching to ruffle his ears and hold onto his collar just in case he was a runner. Hi, puppy. Are you so friendly? I'm so sorry, the woman called, jogging down the driveway to meet us. She took his collar from me, steering him back toward the house. He hardly ever gets to meet new people. I hadn't known what to expect, so I could hardly say she looked as I'd expected. I had only ever seen old pictures of her with my mom in their college dorm, or holding me as a baby with a big grin on her face. In the glow from the porch light, I could hardly make out much detail other than her pale blue pajama pants and knit sweater. Her hair was light brown with a good streak of gray, tied up on the back of her head with a ribbon. I watched the mess of hair bob as I followed her up to the front steps. As soon as we got inside and the door was securely shut behind us, she released Cosmo and opened her arms. I set my bag down and hugged her. She smelled strongly of lavender and something earthy, and her frizzy hair tickled my ear. I'm so glad you're here. Joan released me, clasping her hands in front of her and beaming at me. Oh, look at you. I haven't seen you since you were a little baby. I got a better look at her now. She had soft wrinkles around her eyes. Lighter eyes than I'd thought they'd be from the pictures. One was droopier than the other. I forgot if my mom had mentioned that she had a stroke or maybe it was Bell's palsy. Aging also shrunk her down. In college, she'd looked much more filled out, her cheeks flushed with warmth. I smiled back, letting her take my hands in hers like older women seem to love to do. I know. I'm so glad you got here safe. I was a little bit worried about those winding roads, especially at night. I thought you might get lost. I waved her off, picking my bag up off the floor. Nah, I had directions. I couldn't get lost. Oh, you folks and your technology. I wondered what folks she was referring to. City folk, young people, a combination of the both. Let me make you some tea and let's chat. Or some coffee? Do you drink coffee? Oh, I'm sorry. Let me show you where to put your things. She motioned for me to follow her down the hallway. Cosmo nipped at my heels, yipping at me. I'd love some coffee. Thank you. I felt sleep closing in, and I'd rather stay up late than be rude to my host by crashing. She opened the door to a guest bedroom and stood aside. It was pristine. The covers tucked in like a hotel. The only other thing in the room were a rocking chair in the corner, a bedside table adorned with a doily and a little figurine of a deer, and a large mirror right across from the bed. I set my bag down on the floor, looking around. She put a pot of coffee on as I found a seat at the kitchen table, admiring her house. It looked old, but well renovated and kept up with. She had a huge skylight right above the stove, and I imagined how nice it must be when it rained. I had one in my new living room, too. So, she began, reaching up to take 2 mugs from the cabinet. When will your place be available again? I shrugged, mussing up my hair. They said it should be in the next few days. It better be, because that's when the moving truck will get here. And I laughed jovially. I wouldn't want to have to move all my stuff in here. She blew some air out from between her lips. Well, I am in need of some lawn decorations. We're doing some last cleaning and checking that all the appliances are in order. I wouldn't be burdening you if my lease hadn't been ending. It had been really sad to clean out my old place and say goodbye to everyone, even though I knew they'd visit. Moving here to work at my father's lumber company wasn't particularly the exciting new venture I thought I'd eventually move for. But it was a huge step up the ladder and paid well. Besides, after the years in the city, I thought it'd be nice to have some solitude and a new start in a peaceful little forest town. Maybe I'd finally actually do some writing. No, not a burden at all. The kettle beeped, and she poured hot water into her own mug on top of a tea bag. The entire room smelled like strong coffee, calming my nerves. It's nice to have a warm body around. I haven't had much of that since my son moved out. There were pictures stuck on the fridge with various fruit shaped magnets. I noticed now. Pictures of a man who was likely around my age, standing with his mother, standing with another girl on graduation day. I wondered how long it had been since he'd left. Is that him? I asked, pointing at the fridge. Yeah, that's my boy, she answered, moving to open the door quickly and fumbling around for milk, obscuring my view. Cosmo whined at my feet. I reached down to pat his head and he nipped at me. So I pulled my hand back. He seemed stressed out. Matt, Joan said suddenly right in front of me, and I jumped. I smiled apologetically at the reaction. She handed me the mug of coffee and I took it. There are some things I need to talk to you about. I frowned inquisitively, looking up at her. She took a seat across from me, suddenly solemn. What things? I just don't know if you've ever lived in a place like this before. I looked up at the ceiling, thinking about what that could mean. I've lived in small towns before, if that's what you're getting at. I went to college in a pretty small community. No, it's not that, she continued, sipping at her tea absent-mindedly. Although, I'm glad to hear it. What is it? She hesitated, tapping her fingernails against her mug for a long time before speaking. Her more droopy eyes seemed to blink slower than the other, like it was slightly delayed. I felt bad for noticing, so I looked away. This place is different. I know your parents didn't tell you anything, and that's because they don't know about it. We keep it pretty hush-hush. Yeah? She looked so stoic now that I felt unnerved. Her face looked strange, uncanny, without a huge smile on it. She sighed and nodded slowly to herself, as if she was considering how to word something. It's really nothing to worry yourself over. We're all pretty used to it around here. You just learn to adapt. I wished she would just spit it out already, but I wasn't about to tell her that. She'd been such a gracious host. There's a thing. There's a thing around here. I think it came from the forest, evolved from something else, probably thousands of years ago. Tell me, do you know a lot of folklore? I stuttered, my coffee starting to go cold in my hands. Do you mean like the Wendigo? Stuff like that? I knew a lot about myths people had in forest towns like this, but I didn't know they took them seriously. My mom hadn't told me her friend was so superstitious. Yes, like that. This is a thing no one has written about yet, though. Although there are similar stories, it's unheard of except to us. She looked at me, her hair falling in thin curtains on either side of her eyes. I just need to warn you so you know what to do if you encounter it, because you will. Those words sent a chill down my spine. Because you will? As if it was some inevitable event, some cosmic, unearthly, destined thing. I was never good with spooky stories. I wondered if she was trying to haze me, trying to scare me out of moving here. Maybe the locals really didn't like new people, and she'd just been great at hiding it so far. Okay. I know this sounds strange. I know you probably don't believe me, but I wouldn't be able to live with myself if I didn't tell you. I swallowed air. Okay. There's a thing here we have no name for. Some people call it a mimic or an echo. The more theatrical of us call it the actor. The children call it the copycat. She laughed, but it came out shallow and breathy, slightly wrong. That's what my son used to call it when he was little. What what does it do? Well, she laughed again, nervously dragging her finger along the rim of her mug. It mimics. Mimics what? Anything. She shook her head. Really, anything. You name it. Anything physical. Trees, lampposts, animals. Uh, people. I swallowed again, looking down at my hands. I didn't really believe her, but it still made me feel weird. The air in the room felt thick and hot. Whether she really believed it or not, either way, she was trying to scare me, and it was working. Well, if it mimics things, how do people know about it? The consequences, she said, her voice low. I chewed on the inside of my cheek to keep from shivering. Of breaking rules. And because sometimes it messes up. A dog with 3 eyes or a tree with human skin. Sometimes it doesn't have a full grasp on what it's imitating, but it's been getting better with time. What are the consequences? Now she looks sad. She set her tea aside to wring her hands on the table. A couple of years ago, there was a nice family a couple blocks over. The wife broke the rules. Whatever you do, if you encounter it, you have to pretend everything is normal. You have to indulge it, play along, and if you acknowledge that it's imitating, it gives it permission. Cosmo whined and curled up at my feet, shifting anxiously. He pointed his nose up at me, nudging my shin. Permission to do what, Joan? She shrugged, her eyebrows furrowed. We don't know. No one witnessed it except her husband, and he wouldn't tell anyone what happened to her. All we know is when she woke up, she had 2 children instead of 1. When she told the mimic it wasn't her daughter, she shrugged again. Whatever it did to her, it left a horrible mess, and the whole town smelled like rotten meat for weeks. Jesus. I leaned back in my chair. For an urban legend, this one seemed pretty fleshed out. Unless she was lying to me. But she seemed so genuinely distressed and such a kind woman that it didn't make sense that she'd do that to me. It changes every midnight to something different. There will be some days you don't see it at all. Many days. Either because it's something small or unnoticeable, or because it isn't focused on you. But if it is focused on you, I need to know you'll be able to handle it, that you'll be okay. Wait, so I ran my hands down my face, rubbing at my eyes. What do I do again? Theoretically, if I had encountered it. She held up one finger. Don't bring it inside your home. If you see a nice chair on the side of the road that feels off somehow, don't take it back to your house. If you see a sad stray puppy, if someone comes to your door asking for a glass of water, or if they look like an old friend, but you didn't plan on having company, that gives it access. And then it could pretend to be anything inside. Okay? Okay. I got it. She held up a second finger. Never touch it. Never let it touch you. It will learn about you. It will get attached to you. If you touch it, it can mimic you. She smiled sadly. This is sometimes difficult to avoid. It wants to touch you. It will come up with excuses. This is why you really don't want it inside of your house. Okay. Not only that, Matt, if it touches you, you will never be able to leave. I wanted this to stop. I wanted to go to bed now. I felt on edge. This really wasn't how I wanted to start my new life here. Always looking over my shoulder. But I still really didn't want to be rude. She held up a third finger, looking into my eyes. Her gaze was so intense, almost cold. Never, ever let it know that you know what it is. Cosmo started barking, and I almost leapt out of my skin. He started running in circles, pacing anxiously, barking at seemingly nothing. My heart was racing. I looked at Joan. She was looking at me, not Cosmo, searching my face as if to read if I believed her. I laughed to try to cut the tension, and it hardly worked. I think I need to call it a night, Joan. Can we talk about this more in the morning? She nodded, almost seeming disappointed. Was this some test I hadn't passed? She took my mug, still nearly full of now cold coffee, and her own. Of course, honey. I'm sorry to spook you. It's getting late. I have to go anyways. Get some rest. Cosmo, lay down. He didn't listen. He barked at me, backing into the doorway. I couldn't sleep. The neat guest bedroom that had seemed sweet before seemed almost eerie now, and the large mirror in front of the bed made me think of the stories I'd heard when I was little about never having one of these in front of where you sleep. Something about demons coming through and taking you. I couldn't stop thinking about what Joan had said. Not that it was true, but if it was, had it ever been let inside of her home? How would I have known if it was the chair I'd been sitting on, or the mug of coffee, or this bed? If she really believed all of that, it seemed an awful way to live. I drifted off for a little while into restless sleep. It only felt like moments, though, before I was opening my eyes with a start. Cosmo was barking somewhere in the otherwise silent house. He'd been acting strange all night, and I wondered if he was always like that or if he was sick. I waited to hear Joan scolding him or trying to calm him down, but her voice never came, and he just kept barking. The floorboards creaked as I stood. I walked slowly to the door of the room and hesitated. What if this door was the thing? That was stupid. I was being so gullible. I pulled it open, wincing at the sound of the hinges squeaking. A dark form rushed down the hall toward me. My hand flew to my chest, stepping backwards until I was close enough that I could tell it was just Cosmo. He was panting and shaking, and he spun in a circle in front of me. What? I asked him in a whisper. What is it? He sprinted back down the hall, and I followed him. Can you imagine? I'm sorry. I don't. Can you imagine being told this story by some lady that like you've never met face to face, who was friends with your mom in college, and like it's your first night in her fucking house? You just drove there in the middle of the night. You're already spooked the fuck out, disoriented, and then you're laying in like her guest bedroom, right? And, and the dog starts barking, which already scares the shit out of you enough. But you're already thinking like, whoa, what if my bed's the mimic? What if this thing fucking eats me? What if the fucking mirror is the mimic? What if my coffee cup, right? Just that fucking line where Matt's like, he grabs the doorknob and he's like, what if this fucking door is the mimic? I'm sorry. That shit, I'm just like, because I'm picturing, like, imagine hyping yourself up so much, right? Because obviously, in any other context, this is a fucking scary story that somebody just told you. Just freak you the fuck out. Imagine being like grown as fuck. We don't know how old she could be anywhere. Fucking, she went to college, so let's say late 20s, mid to late 20s. She's in her mid to late 20s. Let's say she's like 25 for continuity's sake. Spooked the fuck out at like 25. Gets up, goes, grabs the door, and her first fucking thought is, what if this door's the mimic? I don't know. This story doesn't deserve that. Let's keep it serious here. I don't know. Let me know in the comments what fucking item would scare you the most if you found out it was the mimic. Like, what one would freak you the fuck out the most? I think for me it would be my underwear, for obvious reasons. The kitchen was better lit than the hallway, the moonlight casting a white glow into the room. I blinked, my eyes adjusting. I glanced at the clock on the stove. It read in bright green numbers, 1:22 a.m. My eyes drifted to the fridge. In the darkness, the photos of Joan and her son felt almost uncanny, like something lost to time. I looked closer. Joan looked happy, sitting with her son and holding him when he was a kid. She looked just like she had in the pictures with my mom in college. It must have been not long after that when she'd had him. Her eyes were brown like I thought they were. They must just look darker in pictures than in real life. Or maybe they'd somehow lightened with age. Maybe she was a little bit blind, or whatever she had that made her eye droop. I looked at another picture. A more recent one of her in this very kitchen with someone around her age. There were the wrinkles and the half-gray hair. Her eyes were dark and neither side looked dragged down. My eye caught on a white slip of paper. Nosily, I took it from behind the strawberry-shaped magnet and held it to the light coming from the stove. "Hi, Matt. If you're reading this, your mother must have contacted you. So sorry I had to slip out. Friend's sink flooded and I had to help her pack all her things up. We'll be back first thing in the AM. Help yourself to anything. I have tea, decaf, and regular coffee for guests. Sorry again. See you soon. Joan." Cosmo snarled. He had his paw up on the windowsill and was staring out at something in the night. With shaking hands, I set down the note. I walked over to him, my heartbeat almost audible in the quiet. Under the street lights, there was a man. He was standing directly in front of the house, looking in, but too far away to easily make out. I squinted, taking Cosmo's collar in my hand for comfort. He was waving his arms in some kind of mockery of a friendly gesture, and on closer inspection, he had a big smile on his face, similar to the one Joan had worn. His legs were spread too far apart, like a baby deer, like he hadn't yet figured out how to stand properly. His eyes were too low on his face. All the proportions were slightly off, as if he was a children's drawing of something they'd seen once before. But the hair was pretty close. And he was wearing my clothes. It was me. I just tried to leave. I forgot my bag, but by the time I realized I was already almost out of town, I didn't care. I just wanted to get out of there. I got to the winding roads before I had to stop the car. The further away I get, the more intense the fear becomes. It washes over me in waves as intense as the pain was when I first broke my arm as a child. It's heavy and otherworldly. It feels like descending into hell. It feels like entering another reality. It feels like becoming completely alone. It feels like I'm skin being torn from a body. It feels like if I keep driving, the world will end. And I can't do it. The thought of driving back and climbing into Joan's guest bed sounds like the most comforting thing in the world. It would feel like a hug from my mother after the first day of school. It would be heaven. I have to turn around. I don't think I'll ever be able to leave, just like it said. But if anyone ever tells you a story like this one, please listen. Please get out while you still can. What a great story. I'm glad that the mimic wasn't the door or my underwear. No, it's for real, dude. That was a good story. I really like how the pictures, um, like were hidden from her, him, her. I don't know. Character's name's Matt. Whatever. We're gonna call her her for this one because I thought it was her for like half the fucking story. Matt can be a girl's name. It's fine. Whatever. Anyway, it was absolutely phenomenal. I read, so when I read these, the longer stories like these, I don't read it in its entirety before I request or accept an offer to narrate it, because I like to discover this as I'm narrating it, because I think that gives you guys more like honest reactions from me as well. But I can tell you this: after reading the first half of this story and then talking to Orange Peeler, by the way, Orange Peeler again, give him a good shout out. Go follow him over on Reddit or go check out their works. I don't know if they have anywhere else. They didn't say anything. Orange Peeler, if you see this and you do have somewhere else that you have works posted, please feel free to post it in the comments. So let me know on Reddit in our conversation, and I will pin it to the top. But yeah, go check them out. But after reading this two times, the first half of this two times, I have this story is way, way, way more lean than it felt when I read it the first time. Because it was like, oh, it's a good story, but it seems to have like a lot of fat on it, right? There's a lot of context, a lot of fat, some things we probably didn't need. And that's just how it is sometimes. And it works, but it's just like, that's how it is sometimes. But going and reading it again during narration, there's so many intricacies marbled into the beef, the real beef of this story. So I suggest, like, if you enjoyed this, go read it. If you enjoyed the narration, please go read the story too. And I'm telling you, you're gonna walk away with a totally different perspective. It's really good writing. It's always really good writing coming from Orange Peeler. So Orange Peeler, thank you again. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed the video and you don't follow, please subscribe to the channel. Like the video. It absolutely helps. We're in learning the YouTube algorithm trust again after being gone for a year. So please, yeah, anything helps. Share with your friends and let me know in the comments. What would be the item that would make you the most concerned finding out it was the mimic, right? I did say underwear. Now I'm thinking about it. Like if my girlfriend discovered the mimic was her tampon, that might be a fucking problem. All right, now me and that mimic are gonna have words. He's crossed the line. Anyway, yeah. Again, thanks for watching. Please go follow the main account over on TikTok at Kodiak Corpse if you like surrealism art. I've got a shop, kodiakcorpse.bigcartel. Go check it out. Yeah, we got a whole bunch more comments, so stay tuned. Anyway, I love you. Stay spooky.